And once again, I'm filming outside. It's a beautiful day here, but you can see hear the birds in the background. You can hear the wind a little bit. That's just part of being outside. So yesterday, I had the opportunity and the pleasure to address the boys at Anvil Academy. If you don't know what Anvil Academy is, it's a ministry given to teach young men how to become good godly men, Christian men, and how to make things out of metal, forging, blacksmithing, out of wood, etc. It's a place where an old shop teacher like me can still be useful and continue to teach and instruct and mentor young men. If whatever kind of communication they have at that time in this world, send them a text message, call them on the phone, wish them a happy Father's Day, and always say, thanks, Dad. I appreciate it. You've taught me how to be a good dad, and I'm going to try my best to be as good as you. So obviously the gist of this message is about Father's Day. Now, as you're hearing this, Father's Day is coming up on this Sunday. Usually second weekend in June is when we celebrate that traditionally in this country. Now, in the book of Ephesians in the Bible, in chapter 6, verses 1 to 3, it says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, and honor your father and your mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with you, and you may live long upon the earth." I think all of us want things to be well with us, and we'd kind of like to live long on the earth. By doing what that says, enables us to get the blessing of the Lord to be able to have things go well for us and to be able to live long on the earth. So as we follow that, we can expect to receive the blessings of it. Now, I was thinking a lot about this, obviously. I happen to be a father and a grandfather, and I was once a son. And I've been through all stages, currently in these stages. And I remember as a kid, growing up as a boy, and this is what I shared a lot with the boys at Anvil. You know, when you're growing up, your father is bigger than life. You know, from the time you could really cognitively start understanding things, you see your dad as the biggest, strongest, most courageous, most intelligent man on the planet. He's your protector, he's your provider. Whenever you have a need, you can be guaranteed that you can go to him and he will take care of it. You know, you go out in the neighborhood, you go on the playground, and you always get in arguments. My dad's bigger than your dad. My dad could beat up your dad. Oh yeah? Oh yeah? Well, my dad, blah, blah, blah. Okay? Because your dad is everything at that point. As you progress through school and through life, you have teachers, you have coaches, and other people who have input in your life. And you start to learn things that you think, well, I don't think my dad knows that. Or I don't think my dad understands that. And you start to see that not everything maybe your dad is telling you is as it is. And you start to have doubts. And your dad goes from a 10-foot tall giant, okay, and gets a little smaller in your eyes, a little smaller. And you come to a place where you think, well, what does my dad know? He doesn't know anything. And you get an attitude like that. You get a little bit of pride, and eventually, I shared this last night with the boys, you fall in love, you get married, and you start having children of your own. And then you come to a point where you start realizing, hey, my dad was right about this. He was right about girls. He was right about school. He was right about work. He was right about things in life. And you start to realize that, yes, he was. And then he starts to grow a little bigger and a little bigger in your sight. And if you have enough courage and you have enough humility, there will be times you talk to your dad. Maybe you're in your 20s or 30s, and you say, Dad, you were right. You were right about this. You were right about that. And you know, there's nothing that pleases your dad more to hear that. Not that he wants to be right. Not that he thinks that he's Mr. Know-It-All. But that he wants you to see the things in life that you need to see. Because he knows you're going to be a dad someday. And as you are a dad, you're seeing and understanding all the things that he did for you out of love, out of commitment, out of responsibility. And you come to understand that being a dad is one of the most difficult jobs in life. It's a job of responsibility, of personal sacrifice, and doing for others before you would even think of doing for yourself. However, you also find that it's the most fulfilling, most rewarding job on the planet. And the years of sacrifice, the years of working at a job that wasn't the greatest, working with people that weren't the greatest, having bosses that were annoying and overbearing, and just, coming home with your legs tired, your back sore, and sacrificing and having you ask him to take you to ball practice, play catch in the backyard. Dad, can we go fishing? Then, of course, Christmas and birthdays roll around, and you expect, to get gifts, and you don't realize that there are bills to be paid. Dad might have had to work overtime or a double shift, okay, or holidays, and put in time when he was tired and sacrifice things that he would have wanted and things that he would have done. When I think about my father, and I think about what I have today materially, financially, I have light years above him. He had nothing. He really had nothing. Men today have a lot of toys, as much as we may not want to admit it, okay? My grandfather lived through the Depression, raised the family. He had absolutely nothing. I remember more than once my brother and I would ask my dad, hey, Dad, it's Christmas time. What would you like for Christmas? What would you like for your birthday? And he always would say, I want you guys to do well in school so you can get a better job than I had. I thought, that's not a gift. That's so dumb. God, Dad, how does that benefit you? I had no idea. And when he would come home and see us asleep in bed, that we had a full belly from food that we ate, that we had air conditioning and heat in the home and bills paid, and even to do things like play Little League baseball or things like that for extra money, that costs extra money, that gave him the pleasure that he wanted. That was the motivation that enabled him to do what he had to do sacrificially. And so what does he want in return? I'll tell you what he wants in return. No material thing. Now, my kids made me, they'd make drawings when you're a little kid, when they're small, they'd give you little gifts, etc. You know what? But it wasn't gifts, and it's not gifts that your dad wants. There's no gift you can give him more than him hearing the words from your mouth that says, Dad, thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate all you did and do for our family, for me, to provide me with the things that I have, to bless me with the things that I have. I thank you for it. And Dad, I love you because I know you love me, and I want you to know that I love you and I appreciate you more than any gift that I could give you. If you're a man in your 30s or 40s or 50s and your dad is still alive, send him a text. Send him a text every now and then. Stay in communication with him. Call him on the phone. Talk to him. Just let him know how you're doing. Because your success in life, your prospering in life, is what he invested in you for. And you doing well and you being a good dad is what will bless him more than anything else. Because I'd like to think that I was maybe as good as my dad. He was a good dad. He was good to us. He was good to me. And I hope that I was somewhat as good as he was. I know I tried my best. And dads make mistakes. I made mistakes. I have regrets. I wish I could have done a lot of things better. But I did try my best. It was my number one job, my number one priority in life. And there's no manual for it. There's no classes to go to that you could learn, like you learn things on your job or you learn in school. You did what you thought was best. And I hope that my son could be better, once again, than the dad that I was. Not make the same mistakes, and do a better job at being a dad, because that's his number one job. Now, speaking of mistakes, I had a few, okay? As I mentioned, regrets, but regrets are a waste of time because you can't change them. You can't go back and change things. For some of you listening, as I have many friends, as I mentioned, I'm in a very large men's group. I'm maybe one of the oldest, possibly the oldest in the group. So I hear from a lot of men who are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and so many had dysfunctional childhoods, had dads that were absentee, abusive, that they didn't even know. You know, fatherlessness is is not the biggest issue or the biggest root of every criminal, of every person that's in prison, okay, is birth in fatherlessness. It's a statistical fact, psychological, medical, scientific fact, fatherlessness. And for those of you who had dads that were absentee and that were abusive, alcoholics, etc., whatever things it be, and they made mistakes, like I said, like I made mistakes, and they did their best. You know, they may have been doing exactly how they were raised, what they saw. They may have had the same absentee, abusive situation, and they tried their best, and they tried to do what was right and do better, but they didn't have the example for it. What you need to do is you need to forgive. You need to forgive them out of your heart. Okay, Jesus said, if you do not forgive men their trespasses on earth, neither will your heavenly Father forgive you your trespasses. And I know it's tough, you know, but it is the root. Unforgiveness and bitterness is a root the Bible talks about that is preventing you from being the father you want to be to your children. It's preventing it. If you're living in bitterness and unforgiveness towards your dad, and I know it's, you know, I know the stories, believe me, but it doesn't matter. You need to forgive. You need to find a place in your heart. Get alone with God. Let him heal your heart. Let him lead you in forgiveness. If it entails speaking to your dad, if he's still alive, communicating with him, you know, it can be a tough thing. I know men who have done it, okay? And it's the best thing that they've ever done after they've gotten on the other side of it. And you'll find when you have done that, it has opened the door to setting you free from a lot of bondages and issues and barriers and things you may have and encountered in life. Okay? I hope you've gotten something from this. It's a kind of hard subject even for me to talk about without being emotional. My dad passed away over 20, 25 years ago. I wished I had known some of the things I know today. You know, there's a quote from an old cowboy movie that Charlton Heston played in, and he said this: too soon old and too late smart. I wish I had gotten smarter earlier in life. Would have prevented a lot of problems. So happy Father's Day. Honor your father. Forgive him if you need to forgive him. Talk to him, send him a text, call him on the phone, okay? And honor him and bless him, because he's always there for you. I don't care how old you are. You know you have a good dad, that he's there for you. He'll always be there for you.